right here on TwoRawForTV.tv. If you are here for the first time, welcome. And if you're returning,
All right, well, you're back.
all right. So I guess we're back.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, you've always been there. You didn't go anywhere, but the audio chopped out.
Is the audio there? Because I don't hear anything.
I'm not hearing it, but it is there. Just give me 1 second. Um,
Well, this is live. This
yeah,
happens live show. No editing, no do-overs,
no, none of that.
just straight live.
We are connected. We are connected, and I don't understand why it's not.
I'm just waiting for the word so I can
You're good to
start
go.
running my mouth again.
Yeah, you're good to go. Everybody's hearing us.
Oh, I guess we're just not hearing
You're
us.
yeah, you're good to go. Everybody's hearing you.
All right. Well, as I was saying, what we do around here is we do stream from a few other streaming platforms such as Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X, I believe. Not sure if we stream on TikTok, but I guess we could get that started one of these good old days. But that is not for the entirety of the show. If you would like to see the entire show, you will have to come over to our main streaming platform, which is 2rawfortv.tv. And that is the number 2, raw, the number 4, tv.tv. And with that being said, excuse me, welcome to everyone. And again, I hope you all enjoyed tonight's show. Now, there's a few different things that I really would like to discuss tonight. And it's been a pretty crazy past couple of weeks in America. Um, I believe it was a week or so ago. And again, I don't know how to categorize him, but I guess you could say a political podcaster, Charlie Kirk. His passing became came as a surprise to many people in the nation. But what's even crazier, than him being killed in front of a crowd of people is the fallout that has happened, since his passing. And what we're seeing is something that, we haven't really seen that much from the conservatives and the Republicans. During the Biden administration, the Republicans were very vocal about censorship. Donald Trump had been censored from a few different social media platforms, which actually caused him to go ahead and create Truth Social. So, the Republicans being very vocal about freedom of speech and how important it is, and how, the Biden administration, the Democrats, and the liberals are going out of their way to censor everyone, which was true. An article came out, I believe today or the day before, where it was revealed that Biden had intentionally been censoring people, especially during the pandemic. So, the Democrats do engage in censorship, but the Republicans do as well.
But I don't understand what's going on with your actual mic. Okay, it's back.
All right, I don't know why my mic is glitching out, but y'all bear with me. As I was saying, the Republicans have been getting called out this week for their hypocrisy because, for some odd reason, the so called champions of freedom of speech, the First Amendment rights, have been very aggressive over the past week or so about how, people need to lose their jobs and all these sorts of things if they criticize Charlie Kirk. But, like I said, it's something that's extremely hypocritical coming from the Republicans because they were so butthurt and so outraged when they were accusing the Democrats of censorship. And, that's the reason for me and why I would encourage people to not really take any of these political parties seriously. I don't take the liberals seriously. I don't take the conservatives seriously because they're kind of pretty much one and the same. They might have vastly different ideologies, but when it comes to, you know, having control of the masses, that's something that they both want. It may be for different reasons, but that's their ultimate goal at the end of the day, to have control of the masses.
Does that help? Hopefully that helps.
All right, y'all bear with me. Like I said, I don't know what's going on with the mics today. It's quite funny that my mic keeps going out when we're talking about censorship. I don't know if that's a coincidence or not. I don't know what's going on with that, but that's kind of strange. It's kind of odd that we're talking about censorship today and the mics keep going out. So I don't know. I don't know if the energy of censorship is just out here in the atmosphere. But again, like I said, you can't take any of these political parties seriously because they have their own agendas. But their ultimate goal, like I said, is to control the masses and push whatever that agenda might be for that particular political party. And again, that's why I don't take either of these parties seriously. I'm kind of getting annoyed with politics. I'm getting to the point where I'm just disinterested in it, and I know that it does play a vital role in society, but especially when it comes to federal politics, it's really just becoming a shit show and a clown act to the extent that a lot of people I feel are becoming disengaged with this. And I've been a very vocal proponent of just showing a show of disapproval by not engaging in politics, especially on the federal level, like showing these people through not participating in the process that you don't approve of them. I think that would be something that would be extremely plausible if one election cycle, or for however many election cycles it takes, for the public to just show these people, listen, we're not in agreement with anything that either of these parties are doing. It's very ridiculous that when you think about the political landscape in this country, that there's only two major parties when there's other parties that never even make it to the debate stage. I mean, very rarely do you even see an independent at these political debates. Forget about the Green Party or any other alternative party. They never get to see the light of day. So the whole thing is just it's hypocritical. They talk about the freedom of this and the freedom of that, but they go out of their way to block alternative political parties from even making it to the main stage to debate these two major parties. So again, like I said, especially on a federal level. Politics is really just becoming a clown show, and that's why I've become extremely disinterested with it. But I'm not here to talk about political parties per se tonight. I do want to, get into the discourse that's been happening throughout this week, the weeks prior to this week, where this Charlie Kirk incident has really exposed the conservatives for the hypocrites that they are. There's really no other word to use to describe them. They are showing their hypocrisy. They're showing that they're really not champions of free speech as they confess to be. Because when people start saying things that they don't agree with, they're jumping out there and calling for these people to receive backlash and, to a degree, to receive censorship as well. Because, I'm going to play a video here in a minute where the vice president is expressing his disapproval, I guess you could say, of people who have been criticizing Charlie Kirk. They're trying to make it appear that people who are expressing the fact that they're not going to hold Charlie Kirk to any type of high regard, they're trying to make it appear that these people are mocking his death. And yeah, there may be some outliers out there of people who are mocking his death here and there, but for the most part, there isn't a lot of people mocking Charlie Kirk's death. They're not mocking the fact that he was brutally murdered for the world to see, but they are calling out his racist, his racist points of views that he was traveling around the country spreading, the outrageous things that he was saying about the LGBTQ community, and just his his outlandish behavior. So you have people saying, no, we're not going to allow his Republican cronies and these conservatives or whomever to paint him as some person who was some type of champion of the truth. Because, to be honest, a lot of what came out of his mouth was lies. And I said this in the last show. He was spreading racist propaganda, outdated statistics, and all other types of nonsense that's, his supporters and people were holding up as the gospel. And Charlie Kirk has been debunked. They don't really show those videos of people cooking him on these college campuses, but his talking points have been debunked because it was a bunch of BS. So again, there isn't a multitude of people mocking his death, but that's the message that they're trying to push, and I guess that's the cover that they're trying to provide for themselves as to why they're calling for people to be restricted in what they're saying. But again, there isn't a lot of people mocking his actual death. They're just saying we're not going to pretend like this man wasn't a disgusting human being. And I tend to agree with that. I'm not going to speak of him in high regard because a lot of the stuff that he said was extremely disparaging, especially to the black community. This man was.
Let's try that. See if that works. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, y'all. Like I said, please bear with me. Don't leave. We're having technical difficulties. And like I said, it's quite odd to me that on the night we're talking about censorship, my mic keeps going out. So I don't know if like I said, I don't know if the spirit of censorship is in the atmosphere tonight, but we're going to push through because that's what we do around here. Ain't nothing going to stop us. We're a platform where we don't tolerate censorship. So we're going to keep it moving. We're going to keep it pushing.
That's why they call it live. Like a lot of stuff happens while you're live. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's one of the things that happens with live shows. It is what it is. But again, we gotta push through. We gotta push through. And we're gonna push through. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll that video of not president, Vice President JD Vance. And he has some things to say about critics of Charlie Kirk, or like I said, like they like to say people who they deem are mocking Charlie Kirk's death. So we're gonna go ahead and roll that clip and hear what Vice President JD Vance has to say.
Flows from all of us. So when you see someone celebrating Charlie's murder, call them out. And hell, call their employer. We don't believe in political violence, but we do believe in civility. And there is flows from all of us. So when you see someone celebrating Charlie's murder, call them out. And hell, call their employer. We don't believe in political violence, but we do believe in civility. And there is no civility in the celebration of political assassination. Get involved, get involved, get involved. It's the best way to honor Charlie's legacy. Start a chapter of TPUSA or get involved in the one that already exists. If you're older, volunteer for your local party, write an op-ed in your local paper, run for office. I can't promise you this is going to be easy. I can't promise you that all of us will avoid Charlie's fate. I can't promise you that I will avoid Charlie's fate. But the best way to honor him is to shine the light of truth like a torch in the very darkest places. Go do it. We owe it to our friend to ensure that his killer is not just prosecuted but punished. And the worst punishment is not the death penalty, but the knowledge that Charlie's mission continues after he's gone. St. Paul tells us in the book of Ephesians to put on the full armor of God. Let all of us put on that armor and commit ourselves to that cause for which Charlie gave his life, to rebuild a united States of America, and to do it by telling the truth.
Okay, I don't know if it's just me, but maybe it's just me. I don't know. But this is the Vice President of the United States of America. And yes, I understand that Charlie Kirk was his friend, but everything about that just seems extremely unprofessional to me. It seems, I don't know. As the Vice President of the United States, you have to keep a level of decorum. And that just seems far too personal to me. Unfortunately, when he's in that position that he's in as the vice president of the country, showing that level of bias, I really do think is a step too far. Again, like I said, I know these people knew Charlie Kirk personally, but as the vice president of the United States, you have to take your emotions out of the situation when you're speaking to the American people. And for me, like I said, I don't know if it's just me, but I don't think I'm the only one that sees how personal that seems. Personally, they are acting upon this and abusing their power, if you ask me. Because if
You
you
can't
can't
separate
separate
your
your
emotions
emotions
from the
from the position,
position that you have as the vice president. That is extremely dangerous for the people who were not Charlie Kirk supporters, because the reality of the matter is that nobody has to be a Charlie Kirk supporter. It's
That
like that.
that's the dangerous part, right?
Hmm?
I said that's the dangerous part right there.
Yeah, that's why I said his message just seemed a little bit too personal for me. I think that his message was extremely unprofessional.
He said call their employer.
You're the vice president of this country. You're supposed to be the vice president of every American,
So
not just the Americans that agree with your friend, sir.
and shout outs to Palmetto Star. Make sure y'all check out Palmetto's show on Thursday night coming up, because Palmetto, like, literally, he's convinced that Israel did it, and you can't say any different. I can't wait to hear some of the points that he's bringing up, because this looks like a script. This looks like somebody that's doing what he's told to do, because when it doesn't make sense, like you're pointing out, it doesn't make sense.
I mean, they're human beings, so human beings are emotional creatures. And like I said, Charlie Kirk was actually someone who Vice President J.D. Vance knew in his personal life.
Mm-hmm.
He even went as far as to say that without Charlie Kirk, he wouldn't have been, he don't think he would have made it to the White House and all this type of stuff.
Which might be true. There might be some truth to it.
I do think they're putting their emotions in the way of their jobs. You're the vice president of the United States. It doesn't matter if that was your friend. You shouldn't be sitting there telling people to call people's employer because they have something negative to say about Charlie Kirk. It's their right to say that. And this is why I'm going to continue to call the Republicans, conservatives, whatever you want to call them. I'm going to continue to call them out because they were screaming to the moon about how the liberals and the Democrats were trying to censor them. And they're turning around and doing the very same thing to the American public.
Well, Trump came out today and said he can't believe, basically said he can't believe that Kimmel still got his job after ABC told him that he was fired. So
Let me explain.
What the hell does a president have to do with the job of somebody, anchor on TV? Like, why is he in that conversation? That's not good for America.
These people are unprofessional. They're showing their true face. Trump been unprofessional, and somehow he made it back to the White House again. I mean, I guess because Biden was such a failure, people were desperate for something, that they felt was different. But Trump has been showing the nation ever since he, catapulted into politics about 10 years or so ago that he has no decorum. And I guess that's what some people liked about him. I don't know. But he was never presidential to begin with, so that's not really a surprise. He says anything out of his mouth. He's a moron. It's just what it is. But J.D. Vance, for him to get up there and behave that way is very, like I said, it's setting a very dangerous precedent for where where we're headed. Because you can't, you're the vice president. Like I said again, why are you sitting there encouraging people to call people's employers and ruin their livelihood? Because you don't like what was said about your friend. And at the end of the day, that's what it is. You're taking what people are saying about your friend personally, and you're using your platform as the vice president to encourage people to go after people's employment. Completely unacceptable. And that's something that people need to keep in mind, because these people are going to be back and, running again. I believe J.D. Vance has aspirations to become the president one day.
Poor
and
guy.
That's something that people need to keep in mind. He's sitting there encouraging folks to call people's jobs to get them fired. That's not a quality that I personally would want in a president.
For something they said.
Exactly. These are not people who are being violent. These are not people that are saying something racist. These are not people that are doing things that are causing any type of harm to anybody. These people are literally expressing their opinion, something that they said Charlie Kirk was doing.
So here's what, though. We've been on social media for 27 minutes. So let's shut that down.
All right, folks. If you are watching from Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, any of those other platforms, right now is your time to go ahead and migrate over to 2rawfortv.tv. And Apple users, you can go ahead and download the app right now and watch us from the app. Just go ahead to the Apple Store and download the 2 Raw for TV app. Unfortunately, Android users, your time is coming soon, but you can go ahead and transition over to 2rawfortv.tv and watch the completion of the show. Again, that is the number 2, Raw, the number 4, TV.tv. Again, the number 2, Raw, the number 4, TV.tv. And again, you can call in. Phone lines should be opening up here.
Yeah, phone number is 470-666-2100. 2194. Again, that's 470-666-2194.
Yeah, I really do want to hear from you guys. Take a moment, go ahead and give us a call. I want to know what you guys think about, these calls for censorship right now that's coming from the Republican Party, because like I said, the Republicans were supposedly avid supporters of the First Amendment. That's something that they actually ran on. If my memory serves me correctly, when JD Vance debated Tim Walz and the vice president debate, he talked about how the Democrats were calling for censorship, how Kamala Harris was calling for censorship, and Joe Biden, and so on and so forth. And again, these are things that they ran on their platform where they were trying to get in the White House. But as we can see now, they're backtracking on this, which it's not really that surprising to me. It's just crazy to see it happening in real time. These people just exposing themselves for the hypocrites and the liars that they are. And I really wonder how MAGA feels about this. I really do, because, for some MAGA folks, not all, but for some MAGA folks, they feel like Trump and his ilk can do no wrong. All right, phone lines open. We got a call coming in. Caller, you're live. You're live.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Caller, you're live.
It's only free speech if it promotes pink power terrorism. Only free speech. That's the only time they consider it free speech, when it's racist speech. Elon Musk said that Twitter was going to be a free speech platform. I've been on Twitter since 2008. They just kicked me off for an article, but it doesn't fit their pink power terrorism. Pell-mells are the victim narrative. So they booted my legendary Twitter page off. But
So hold on, wait. You're telling me you've been on Twitter for almost 20 years and you've been kicked off?
Yes, I was on Twitter when they first started, not too long afterwards. And I was on there since 2008. Built the platform up because of the stuff that I was going through. The police cases, all of that stuff went viral on Twitter. A lot of the stuff went viral on Twitter. That became world news headlines. And then